Welcome, everyone. Thank you. Well, this is going to be a very exciting evening. It's been a culmination of many years of work, but particularly this year, a lot of work has been done to get this process to this stage. I'm going to let the evening speak for itself tonight, but before we get started, I'd like to invite Alex Campbell to the stage to do a welcome.
Why, sem geget. Daar het neus. Waar het rodig is. En lag je sem sien. De heid kan am hou. Net dat. Is de moors op tap. Lag wel aan. En met de kwassen. De beste span. Zijn zo wel sem. Alle saus gesem. Niet is hem te gaan. De gunja en naar voren. Nu sem. Ladies and gentlemen. I stand here to welcome each and every one of you for coming in to the land of Tsimshian, the 9 tribes of Lakwa lambs. We say to you, welcome to this place. And I hope that everything will work out well because we have a lot to look at and a lot to talk about. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So tonight's about what happens when a community comes together as a team and what it looks like when collaboration joins and we're able to create a plan and results for a community that's been sitting in a place for 20 years that's been asking for a new beginning. And there's been many attempts to really kickstart this community and really get it going. And I think by the end of the night tonight, it's going to be very clear to this community that we're turning a corner and we're moving forward. And the only way that happens is when people come together under a partnership to work together, including businesses and organizations, First Nations, and we come together under a common vision and we see a roadmap for a future that we can all work towards together. And tonight you're going to see that roadmap be presented by Larry Beasley, who I will introduce shortly. And then at the end of that presentation, you're going to hear some news on the actions that are happening behind that, which I think are going to be very exciting for this community. Before we get started, though, this process was a partnership, and I want to call these partners up to the stage to say a few words before we start our evening. So first, I'd like to call John Farrell from Community Futures to the stage.
So I'd like to start by thanking you for coming out tonight, because baby, it's cold outside. So I really just want to touch briefly, because I've been told briefly is the catchword. You better get that. Okay. So the 3 themes are kind of, the mayor already kind of talked about it. Teamwork, the task is bigger than a few, and a call to action. So when we started this process, redesign, a few years ago, it was a different time. There was several LNG companies that saw this town and the North Coast as the base for the exportation of liquid natural gas. And the city and Community Futures joined together just to start the process of how do you manage that kind of juggernaut of change. And so we started by going out into the community, armed with a few questions, the most important being, what's the future going to be in 30 years? And many of you answered that. And probably the most important thing that came out of that was 3 priorities that guided everything, all the work that we've been doing this year and in past years. And that's really like, we want to see our downtown revitalized. We want to see access to the waterfront. And we want to see a better quality of life, not just for the residents here right now, but also for the residents that are coming. And then the next piece was really about teamwork. Because in order to do that, we needed help. And so we knew that our industry partners we're also challenged with this tremendous growth that we're seeing through trade in the Port of Prince Rupert, but also the disparity between all the workforce needs that we have. And it's a significant problem, as you've probably seen. We've had businesses close and we've had people move away. So with the problem ahead of us, the solution was that we were joined by a number of partners, like the province of BC, PRPA, DP World, Ridley Terminals, and Raymont Logistics. And so together, we hired the best experts we could find to start putting together a plan, which the results of you'll hear tonight. But the task is bigger than just a few. And there's an enormous amount of work that needs to be done in 10 years. You saw all that work out there amassed on 28, 29 easels. So in order to do that, we need to have your help. We need you to be part of redesign. And that may be something small, like making sure that you're picking up discarded coffee cups on the street and putting them in the trash. Maybe joining a number of committees, like the business improvement area that's being put together right this minute in the downtown. And I know we can do it, because this weekend I saw it. I saw it in hometown hockey. I saw that starting with the lighting of the trees, to the epic battle between Terrace and Prince Rupert, with the Rampage winning. And I saw the footage that really showed, that put us our best foot forward, that showed people that we have pride of place, and that this isn't just a pretty face. This is a place not just to visit, but a place to come work and grow a family. So I'm hoping you're going to be inspired by what you see in the 2030 community plan, and there is a place for you in its advancement. So I'm hoping that you tune in, step up, and help us build the next great port city. So thank you.
Next, I'd like to call Sean Stevenson up from the Prince Rupert Port Authority.
The Prince Rupert Port Authority has been delighted to be part of the Prince Rupert Redesign Initiative, both as a funding partner, but also in the dialogue and the conversations that have taken place, and the excellent work that's been done to craft a vision for the city of Prince Rupert and the community that we all love and live in. And what I think has been most exciting about this whole initiative is the collaboration between a broad base of organizations, diverse interests, and I think what you'll see tonight is a vision for the future of the community that really captures the values of the community and the diversity that we represent. You know, the purpose statement for the Port of Prince Rupert is to build a better Canada by growing trade. But I think that building a better Canada starts with building a better Prince Rupert. And I've been really inspired by many of the conversations and dialogues that have taken place through this process. You know, there's no doubt that the port's continued growth and expansion is going to create economic opportunities, whether that be through employment, through the economic impacts of a growing port. And that should create the opportunity to create a thriving port city. You know, the long-term vision for Prince Rupert and the community aligns well with our core values. And that really starts with collaboration. And I think through this whole process, the dialogue that's ensued really shows the value of collaboration and what Prince Rupert can accomplish when we work together. And I would argue that there's nothing that's taken place in this community over the last 20 years, including the growth and expansion of the port, that hasn't come through a deep commitment to collaboration and ensuring that we've got shared values as we move forward. And fundamentally, we recognize that a thriving port requires a thriving port city and a community that we all want to not just work in, but live in. And I think creating a vision for the future and the work that's been done over the last number of months is a testament to what we can accomplish together. So we're extremely grateful to be a partner in the Rupert Redesign project, to have the opportunity to work with not just the partners in redesign, but all of the community members that have participated in synthesizing this vision for the future. And we're grateful for the opportunity to be here with you tonight and actually be part of the dialogue that will continue for sure. So thank you very much.
Next, I'll call Jonathan Hebert from Raymont Logistics to the stage.
It's pretty rare. that we do public speeches like that. I think the last time I made a speech in English was in grade 2 in front of 37 people, and the topic was how to make chocolate. So, bonjour, my name is Jonathan Hébert, and I'm the Vice President of Finance and Corporate Development for Raymond Logistics. It's an honor for me to be here today for the presentation of the Prince Rupert 2030 vision and being part of something greater than just economic development in creating a collaborative vision for the future of Prince Rupert. First, I would like to thank the founding members for having us as part of these great initiatives. I would like to thank Mayor Lee Brain and the City of Prince Rupert, Sean and the whole Prince Rupert Port Authority family, Maxim, Ricardo, and the whole DP World's team, Mark and the Relay Terminal organization, and also a special thank to Kylie, Larry, Sandy, and all the partners that help us define this great vision. Since our foundation more than 25 years ago, Raymond Logistics has always followed two simple principles. Align everything to your core values, which are innovations, quality, and flexibility, and respect our mission, which is to facilitate the international trade by enhancing the container supply chain. We collaborate seamlessly, we optimize relentlessly, we simplify skillfully, and we connect successfully. So frankly, deciding to contribute to the creative initiative that is Redesign Rupert was quite easy, since it stems precisely from these founding principles and a collaborative approach for the future of this great city. Over the last 3 years, we have discovered here a welcoming and generous community. This Redesign Rupert initiative was a perfect opportunity for us to give back to the city, the port and its stakeholders, and most importantly, the citizens of Prince Rupert. Because I can assure you, we are here to stay and we have great ambitions for this beautiful city. Prince Rupert holds an amazing potential and key strategic attributes, especially in regards to the growing Asia-Pacific market. We are confident that together with our partners, we are in the process of creating one of the most efficient and competitive intermodal ecosystem in the world. Raymond is committed to invest here for decades to come and actively participate in making Prince Rupert a lovely and vibrant community, as well as a key player in the international supply chain, logistics supply chain. Such development, however, comes with challenges that cannot be denied or ignored. For us and our partners, economic development should not conflict with social acceptability. Private and public stakeholders need to work together to address these challenges early in the process, and that's precisely what we're aiming to do with Redesign Rupert. To be successful, and above all, to be sustainable, such development has to be planned and carried out in harmony with the community and its traditions, especially with the First Nations that welcome us on their land and with whom we have been working as partners since our arrival. The full achievement of Prince Rupert economic potential depends on our ability to find innovative ways to overcome the challenges of economic growth. And that is exactly what Redesign Rupert is all about. Innovation at the service of respectful long-term economic development. Prince Rupert 2030 is a demonstration of what can be accomplished when stakeholders work together to achieve a common goal. If implemented successfully, and it will, this plan, one of the first of its kind, will become a standard for planning successful long-term economic development. Raymond Logistics is very proud to be part of it, and we're sure that the best is yet to come. Merci beaucoup.
Next, we have Angela Kirkham from DP World.
I wish I had an accent. Good evening. On behalf of DP World Canada and General Manager Maxim, who really wished he could be here, we are truly honored to share in the unveiling of Prince Rupert 2030. The city of Prince Rupert is experiencing one of the most significant transitions in its history. It is quickly becoming a port city and a major player in trans-Pacific trade. With an unprecedented economic growth in front of us, DP World sees the opportunity to accelerate the growth of the community while at the same time transitioning Prince Rupert to one of the most livable cities on the West Coast. DP World is proud to provide good job opportunities throughout the province, and we have recently been named one of BC's top employers for the 3rd consecutive year. We focus on long-term investments and in becoming part of the communities in which we operate. We strive to enable projects and initiatives like this that raise awareness, tackle social issues, and make a difference. We would like to thank all of our partners and the entire community for their support and in help in making DP World Prince Rupert a success. We look forward to participating in the execution of the Prince Rupert 2030 vision, matching the same energy, passion, and speed of port development. Thank you.
And lastly, I have a statement to read from Ridley Terminals. Unfortunately, Mark Delude, our representative, couldn't be here tonight. And I feel like Jonathan should read this because Mark is also French and he should be reading in an accent. So he says, first, I want to apologize for not being able to attend tonight. Our workforce is certainly the most important asset that we have, and that makes our company successful. To retain them and attract new talent that will assist us in our request to successfully address the challenges that we will face in the coming years largely depends on the attractiveness of the community that we are evolving in. Ridley Terminals has experienced fast growth in the last 3 years and will continue on this trend for the next 5 years. For us, the attractiveness of the city is a key component to our continued success. This is why we have accepted to be part of the Redesign Rupert initiative, and we are extremely impressed by the outcome of the planning front. We need to continue to work together to implement the plan and make Prince Rupert the place to be in the Northwest and the example to follow. Happy holidays to all. Best regards, Mark Delude. And we'll give him a round of applause for that. So now we're moving on to the presentation, followed by some of the news afterwards. I just want to say that I think this is the first time that we've ever seen this caliber of partners come together for a common goal. And later tonight, too, you're going to see some of our other partners that are here tonight working together to build a new vision for the community. And vision requires action. And we've all been through planning processes, and we've all been through those types of initiatives. But I think one of the things you're going to see tonight is something fundamentally different about this plan, that it's not just a vision, that it's already in action. And I'm very excited to share some of that news with you tonight. But first, we're going to hear from Larry Beasley, and him and Sandy, who have architected this process for the last year with us, with the partners, and have brought hundreds of people from the community together. Over 40 organizations participated in crafting and putting this vision together to really capture the element of where do we want to go and what is the pathway there. So I'm going to read you his bio, and then he's going to come up here and do his presentation. So Larry Beasley is a senior Canadian city planner, urban designer, teacher, and author. He is the Distinguished Practice Professor of Planning at the University of British Columbia and founding principal of Beasley and Associates. For many years, he was the chief planner for the City of Vancouver. He sits on the boards of TransLink in Metro Vancouver, the National Capital Commission in Ottawa, and the International Economic Advisory Board in Rotterdam. Working in cities around the world, he has completed game-changing assignments in Abu Dhabi, Moscow, Dallas, and Scandinavia. He has authored 2 popular books. One is Vancouverism, and the other is Eco-Design for Cities and Suburbs. He teaches extensively on his online course and has a worldwide reach. Larry Beasley has received several honorary doctorates, as well as the Kevin Lynch Prize from MIT and the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal. He is also a member of the Order of Canada. So please give a round of applause for Larry Beasley.
Thank you, Your Worship, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored to be here tonight in Prince Rupert. I'm very honored to be here in Lachine. I'm very happy to be a part of rethinking what this community can be and must be like over the next 10 years at least. What I'm especially tasked with tonight, and so happy to be able to do this, is to unveil the Prince Rupert 2030 vision. It was a wonderful process. It was sponsored, as you've already heard, by a great number of important players, not just coming from government, but coming from the public and private sector. I particularly would like to acknowledge the leadership of Mayor Lee Brain, his amazing leadership in bringing many people together, and also the leadership of John Farrell, who, if it wasn't for his ongoing pushing and cajoling and really helping us to bring everyone together, probably we would not have been able to find this common place that is so important to the people here in Prince Rupert. It was almost a year in the making, and I have to thank especially Kaylee Marlowe for bringing us together moment to moment, all kinds of conversations, but particularly the two big town meetings involving 60 or 70 people at each of those meetings. It was a collaboration of visiting experts that we brought in from various places with a real crowd of local people and local organizations, civic leaders, First Nations leaders, business leaders, community organizations. This, I can tell you, is 100% a community-based vision. There is nothing in this vision that didn't come out of this community, and there is nothing this community wanted to talk about that didn't find its way into this vision. I particularly want to thank our partner, Civitas, the urban designers, who together we were able to synthesize this for you. But we were really doing a job of putting it together. You were doing the job of really thinking it out and making it happen. It's a very fresh way to look at the future of this community. People had to think beyond the typical things that they were thinking about or worried about in Prince Rupert, and also a different way to begin to think about the relationship of the cities and communities with this magnificent natural setting. I'd also like to thank my partner, Senior Associate Sandy Logan. Sandy's here. Where is Sandy? There he is, right there. Who was, particularly with Kaylee, putting it all together, making things work, making the synthesis happen, reviewing it all to make sure that we had included everything. This is a practical game plan for making change happen over the next 10-year horizon. So here it is, of this new vision. It puts down on paper in about 90 pages, and someone already said to me, it's too long. Anyway, 90 pages, that took that for me to say what you wanted to say, to really articulate this very strong concept for how the city and the communities of this region need to grow in order to, first and foremost, be fulfilling and enticing to the people who are already living here as a complete city, and as a network of interrelated communities with different traditions, different interests, but coming together as people who share the space, who share this wonderful land. Also to meet the challenge of this great port that's growing all around you just dramatically, to reconcile differences in order that you can increasingly in harmony share the space and share the benefits and the yields that come from being here and working in with this port. To meet at the same time the best urban practices and standards that are generally understood beyond Prince Rupert, the rest of the world, as essential to all the modern systems, urban systems that wherever they are anywhere in the world, and of course to respect this evocative natural setting in which you inhabit. So over the next 40 minutes, I want to remind you of why this vision was created. I want to go through the basic structure and dimensions of the vision, to unpack the vision in its component parts and talk about how to kickstart real action rather than just do plans and put words on paper so that the vision will come to life. I want to summarize what will result if you stay together and work together and really bring this full realization of the intentions of this vision. And I want to talk a bit about what will happen or should happen next in order to move everything forward. Wherever possible, I'm going to try to use images from the document so that you get a feel for what the document is like. I have to say, this is one of the fastest kickstarts or starting up from this kind of work that we have ever done in any city. And that's why probably the more interesting half of tonight's meeting is going to be talking about some of the things that people have not waiting for official approval or anything else, but just saying, that's a good idea, let's get on with it, let's make it happen. And so I'm very excited about that part of this evening. Now you all know this, but I just want to remind you so I can tell you a total story of why this vision has come together the way it has. There are three really overarching truths that have made the creation of this vision so important. First, you have a lovely community in a beautiful, unspoiled environment, and there is no doubt, it was so crystal clear from the very beginning that you want to keep it that way, that you do not want to see this community diminished as it grows, as so many other communities around the world have suffered from their growth. It's a unique brand, it's a treasure in a very complicated world. Second, you have been stalled as a community in terms of community development over a number of years. So there are many things that you want to see happen here that you haven't seen. There are many things that you want to fix that haven't been fixed. And third, you have this unique opportunity, a one-of-a-kind economic driver for this community that I could say in other cities we work for, people would die to have the kind of economic potentiality already in their community, and now finding a way to optimize that and maximize that for this because of this rapidly expanding port. You have more jobs than people. You have growth that local people can ride to prosperity. You will, though, need a strong and contemporary community infrastructure to support that port and to draw the people to settle here and live here and make their lives here forever, for the foreseeable future. Now, these truths cannot really be reconciled without a very clear concept of how to grow. You know, things just cannot happen by accident. Or I can tell you from our work all over the world, things boil down to the lowest common denominator. Things do not boil automatically to greatness. And this community does not need the lowest common denominator. This community needs the best of what a city can be as it hosts the great port and the great activities and the great attention that you'll be getting over the next decade and more. But even worse, if you don't have a plan, what we see everywhere in the world is that you'll see malaise. You'll see things just not happening. You'll see people acting in the opposite direction and actually canceling one another out. By putting this vision together, the idea has been to bring people's interests into alignment. And we've asked the question, you know, what are the features that need to be in Prince Rupert to deal with these truths and to bring those together in a proactive, innovative, and mutually supportive way? What will bring them together? And the answer, I think, has been brought together by this set of ideas, these patterns that I'm going to show you in the vision that you've created for tonight. So let's move on to the basic structure and the dimensions of this vision. A vision is a very simple statement of civic aspirations. Sean Stevenson, I think, put it right to the point when he said it is a synthesis of your community values. It's an articulated dream of what you want Prince Rupert to be. It's a blueprint for how you wish the communities and the environment of Prince Rupert to grow and evolve together over the next decade. It's an overview kind of framework focusing more on what could happen completely rather than the specifics of what might happen. And that's all important as you settle in with this new port expansion, as you add people to the community, as you expand the urban frame and offerings in this community, and as you build a refreshed image out in the world. So in a moment, I'm going to describe the details of that vision, but let me just tell you how it's structured. And here I've just summarized it. The basic aspirations, first and foremost, are conjured up in one statement, which I'll read in a moment, underpinned by 5 principles for how the place should grow, what must be here, how you should do every single thing that you do as a city moving forward. And then there's the physical expression of all of this, how it might come together, an array of conceptual plans for what it might look like on the ground. We call these framework plans, and they really represent not only your wishes, but also best practices of urban design and land use planning and city building in the nation and in the world. And while they are conceptual plans and they will need a lot of refinement and they will need confirmation, they're not merely drawings. They have been carefully calibrated and tested against well understood projections for growth in population, land use, and jobs. So they're not just cartoons, they are real expressions of how you could grow with the amount of demand you have, with the amount of supply you already have on the ground. And then the strategy is put together to development to happen so that things really do get done over the long run. And for that, the vision elaborates 8 strategic directions, which I'll be going into, and 41 strategic actions, specific things to do, specific groups to do it, specific ways to pay for it, and specific steps to take first and second and third and so on as you make your vision come true. So that's the framework. Now let me unpack the vision. The vision starts with that single, profound, overarching declaration of aspiration. And here it is. The communities and port of Prince Rupert will grow in sync through pervasive collaboration and reconciliation, with the communities hosting complete living and supports for the port, and the port embracing the complete living and supports of the community. So that's what we said overall you want to try to achieve. And then that brings us to those 5 principles for how to do that. And these won't be surprising because we heard them over and over again from the people we worked with. Quality of life comes first. You can't do anything that diminishes your quality of life. Sustainability is more and more important every day. Every measure should be at the top standards of sustainability. Local character is urgent because you have to differentiate yourself from other people in other places. Diversity is important. You want to be the place where people from anywhere in the world could come together and feel harmony. And then that port-city symbiosis of always reinforcing one another is very important. That's the principles. Now let me move on to the actual plans. The first thing we did is we say, well, there's some conceptual plans for how this might all find its way to the ground. I'll start with a sampling. Here is the overall city core illustrative plan. It's all of a piece of what could happen in the core of the city. Here's another version of it in a 3-dimensional form, trying to show how it sits in the environment and with regard to the water, the scale of it, and those sorts of things. And these are all posted out in the lobby so that you can look at the details later and you can really see what is happening here and somewhere else. And we're going to be out there after the session to talk to you about that. But just so you'll know the rigor of the work, here is the kind of projections that we were working from. We had very intelligent assessment of what kind of growth is going to happen in all the fronts of growth, and we used that to test everything again. Now, what's envisioned in these plans is very, very important. So I'm going to describe those in just a moment. But before I do that, I want people to understand something about these plans that make them different from what you might normally see coming out of a municipality or coming out of a group of people planning for the future. They are only indicative sketches. The detailed planning, the detailed design comes later. So you might look at this and you might say, I have an interest in this area or in this piece of land, and I didn't have any conversation about what would happen on that piece of land. Well, nothing's wrong with that, because that conversation is yet to come. And without that conversation and everyone's collaboration, what is shown on those sketches won't happen there. It'll shift over to somewhere else. The idea of the sketch will remain relevant, but the specifics will in fact be the result of very, very good planning processes with your municipality, with your citizens, with your community organizations, and everyone else. So now, having said that, let me show you a little bit more of these. The first is that the vision clusters development and change into activity areas that are all within about a 5 to 7 minute walk of one another. This is scaled to be walkable because right now everyone said things are spreading out too much. We can't walk to most of the things we want to do. These areas come together also because you can then take advantage of real character that's already there and real character that you want to build into the area that will give you interest and activity from that base you already have. It's also scaled so that you can have specialized experience. In one area you can have this kind of experience, it's a waterfront experience, something else. Another area you can talk more about living, day-to-day living experience, different kinds of experience, and also so that you can add the missing elements. It becomes clear, where do you put that multi-use center that you need? Where do you put those child cares and those kind of things? So that idea of clustering into areas is so important. Second, the vision focuses the major city activities into a very tight central downtown district with 2 energy points. What we've called Upper Town, it's the historic area you think of as downtown, and then Lower Town, which of course you know mostly by the name of Cow Bay, but which we're going to talk about how you can expand out from that. So as you see in this drawing, the historic center is now marked as a very important revitalized upper town where major new investment needs to go into as soon as possible to add offices and housing and retail and entertainment and nightlife. As Councillor Nish said, this is priority number 1. Don't forget that when you're putting this forward. If this doesn't happen, a lot of else will not happen, and he was absolutely right on that. So this is the pivotal project. The port companies, we believe, should move their administrative offices to a gateway location here. It'll have offices, but that will draw then into that area things that just haven't wanted to go there in the past. Ancillary businesses, workplaces. It'll be more shops. It'll have restaurants, cafes, food store. Well, the food store is there, but that will be, food opportunities will be expanded. Tourist attractions will come as well. You can see if you get one energy force, then that has demand for other energy forces, and they start to come together to make change. We hope, for example, that each of the First Nations might think that this is an area to have a service center for their community in the core city, as well as a place to interpret their wonderful culture to others all around them and all around the world. That new health center that just opened a few weeks ago is an absolutely essential anchor in this new revitalized area. The hotels remain front and center, and new visitor accommodation is added. Housing for executives and even for short-term employees is easily added in this kind of area. The arts and cultural facilities remain big draws, and then everything gets glued together by not the streetscape and the sidewalkscape that you see there now, but by a specially designed area with special paving and seating and lighting and art and landscape and trees. This is the area that you make those first investments from, and this is the area that starts to define everything else that happens. So that's number one. Then here, you see Cow Bay anchoring a much larger lower town area, which now has a potentiality for much more investment, much more diversification. We really are making the point that the Port Authority offices should stay here. They're just like what I talked about in the Upper Town area. They are an anchor to so much around them. But there will be more shopping, eatery, pubs, attractions, particularly for people coming in on the cruise ships. There is an opportunity for some larger format retail. We sometimes call that big box retail in the upland area. And the idea, which I think is one of the best for this area, is a new innovation hub, a live workspace for people where they can do innovative things and build new kind of businesses that become anchored in the area over time. We see the cruise ship facilities expanded, and further to the west, of course, is the new waterfront park, which this plan embraces 100% and hopes will happen sooner, rather than later. Third, the vision extends this new downtown district with two very cool, what we call in-town neighborhoods, Midtown in one direction and the Marina District in the other. So here's to the west, the area we're calling Midtown. It's up on the benchland. It's walkable from downtown. And it's a newly clustered neighborhood. It takes advantage of some of the historic houses that are there. It infills that with some new buildings, characterful buildings. It's a kind of a laid-back district with low-scaled buildings, lots of heritage. There's a knowledge hub up at the south end of it with all the students spilling out and having places to live in the neighborhood. At the north end, there's a pocket parks along the edge of the cliff and views to the north. There are lovely new townhouses insinuated in the area and restored units, because this is a place, a location, a neighborhood for families who don't want to live in single family. Some people do, some people don't, but this is an area for those people who would like to live in a more urban setting, that they'll be able to do that with their children. And then, of course, Rupert Square is diversified and it becomes a pivot into the downtown vibe. And then there's the signature gateway idea, which you see just on the far end of the drawing in Five Corners, that we think could be a little higher density and would mark that as the entrance to the downtown, one of the entrances to the downtown. And then at the other end, here is an area that extends out from Cow Bay. We call it the Marina District. This is a place for a lot of new housing to accommodate new residents who become the customers of the downtown. You can't have a shop unless you have enough customers. And so you have to have enough people in order to have those customers. And it's a stylish housing area, but it's also a place that offers probably the most generous public access to the water that you could have, with a wonderful new waterfront park. We think this is a location where the First Nations communities have said to us they would like to express themselves right on the water in the traditional locations which have been important to them. But it's also for other attractions, an open market, and a lot of live workspace. Now, just to give you a sense of the detail that is included in this vision, we have backed up these general plans with very specific framework plans on each of the topics that are important. I'm not going to go through them all, but I am going to give you just a taste of what they're about. So here's the retail framework plan. Here's the job space framework plan, showing where you can get a lot more jobs. Here's the plan to look at different building heights. Our idea is to keep the buildings mid-scaled and stepping down from the higher elevations to the water. These plans become important not tonight, but as you're doing the detailed zoning changes and official community plan changes and investment changes that you need to make. Then fourth, this vision, as you see on this map, envisions a constellation of complete neighborhood districts all around this in-town area that I've been describing. These would be complete neighborhoods, and when we say that, they're neighborhoods that have the services that people say they need close by in their housing. Now, in this plan, 2/3 of the housing is still proposed to be single-family housing, but with some additions, things people are saying that they want to have boat slips or boat parking, that they want to have parking for their larger vehicles, and that needs to be added into what is allowed and what happens. But what has been very good is that we've been able to show how all that additional housing could be added without expanding the footprint of the community into the natural area that's all around it. And if you know anything about sustainability and the green agenda that's sweeping the world, you know that this is one of the key things that will keep Prince Rupert right on the cutting edge of being sustainable and green. And then further out, not shown on this drawing, but certainly articulated in the plan, are the First Nations communities, again, having been reviewed and with their councils and with their people upgraded to have the kind of preferred contemporary facilities that they too feel are important for living on a day-to-day basis. Now, the following sketches show you again a few more of the details of this. The vision posits a refined and updated street scheme, for example, a cycling scheme, transit scheme to build out with your transit support. All of this staying true to the original 1907 Brett and Hall plan. The vision also, very importantly, and this was something emphasized by people every single hour of our meetings, unfolds a very strong parks and trails framework. Here is the open space framework for the whole city. Here's zeroing in on that same open space concept just for the in-town part of that. Here is the trail network for the whole city, and again, what that looks like in the inner city part of town. The vision also, very importantly and very strongly, embraces the pattern of port development that is approved and moving forward, as you see on these images that are here. And then, of course, the vision has a lot to say about the natural ecological systems and environmental zones that provide the green context that people said to us over and over again, don't sacrifice this natural treasure for anything that we're doing. So make sure that there are strong ideas about that. So those are the plans, the conceptual sketches, the patterns, but you know, plans are plans. These ideas are going to change. Each one of them has to go through the official development plan amendments. Each one of them has to be subject to zoning. Many hundreds of people will be involved in that. Each one of them has to be considered by the city council, by the First Nations councils, by the Port Authority. But, you know, a vision is the place to start. But a vision is also about action, not just plans that might sit on a shelf somewhere. And action is about very clear directions. It's about organizing people to do things that they need to get done. It's about finding that funding. It's about getting on with it. It's about those all-important first steps. So as I said, you're going to hear more, I think, from the mayor and others tonight about some of those first steps. But I wanted to give you a sense of the overview of the action that is proposed in this vision. And it goes to those 8 different areas that I've already described. And the first of those is housing. And the key direction here is to foster a vibrant housing market with choice, affordability, and social responsibility. The idea is to kickstart what is currently a very flat home development industry here in Prince Rupert. 5 actions are proposed to make that happen. But the most important one of those, very, very vital, is to found a nonprofit housing corporation to immediately start building market housing as a market stimulus, and then to collaborate with BC Housing and others on non-market housing and affordable housing, with at the top of that agenda, the homelessness challenge that you have that's particularly showing itself in the inner city here in Prince Rupert. That has to be top consideration in all of this housing. Next, the vision turns to workforce and workplaces with the direction to draw a diverse employment talent pool to Prince Rupert and build identifiable workplaces as economic magnets. Again, there are 4 different actions that are identified. The most important one, and one that fortunately you have people working on very actively now, is a strong recruitment program here in the community and also out elsewhere in the world to bring people to settle here, to live here, and make their lives here. And then the second one is to build that port business office complex. I would say from the point of view of building, that's the single most important building to build because it will start so much else to happen. The vision then turns to retail, a big issue that was discussed by people. Here the direction is to foster retail diversity and choice in identifiable locations. And again, 4 actions are called for, but the vital one, the most important one that will make everything else practical, is to found a business improvement association for the downtown. That way you'll have hundreds of individual people working to get more retail, to diversify the retail. That doesn't happen by a few people. It doesn't happen by government. It happens by the businesses coming together themselves. And they'll work first and foremost, of course, in Upper Town, but they'll also help Cal Bay to expand as well. They will curate the new kind of shopping you need. They will do strategy after strategy. They won't accept vacancy as a given. They will say, we cannot have the vacancy we see there now, and they will be organized. And by the way, with the funding, or with the legislation in British Columbia, they will have funding to also make the changes that are needed. And then to pull all of these strands together into something special, something that's just more than the sum of the parts, the vision sets an aggressive direction for what we call placemaking. Because the transformation of the city will not really happen unless people really want the results. And people nowadays don't just take the old things that they used to see in cities. They want them specially designed. They want them to be compelling urban destinations. And in this case, there are actually 7 actions that are called for. The key one is to get on with the detailed designs of these places. In the same way that you design your homes, that you design the same way that you have designs of your clothes, you also have to design it in your area. And we're saying get on with that, particularly starting in that Upper Town area. And then the second most important action is to market those images, those new refreshed concepts for your city, so that people will say, oh, I haven't been there. I think I'd like to go there. And when they go there, they enjoy it, they spend some money, they begin to populate the place, and everything starts to change in a big way. And the idea here is really to win back the lost customers that used to come to this place, as well as bring new customers onto the scene. And then the vision moves onto the essential supports for people and their families who live here. And the first of the 2 directions of that is the social infrastructure. The basic services, education, healthcare, public safety, culture. And the direction is to strive for a comprehensive, stable, and responsible social infrastructure. 6 actions are proposed to get this moving, to mobilize the people and organizations in Prince Rupert to advocate for better services, to work on a more complete picture of service needs, to bring services, not just people coming to those services, to bring the services out to people, and to push forward in a coordinated way to deliver those services well. And so very important here is the founding of a social action council. This group was one of the most aggressive and active groups when we were working. They were already the makings of an action council of citizens to do things better, a cultural and arts alliance, and a human services agency coordinating group. That's a group of people already delivering services to make sure that they don't overlap or they don't contradict one another. But support for the recently opened Downtown Health and Social Services Hub, as well as a very clever idea to provide services as an outreach to the outlying communities here in Greater Prince Rupert, is also very important. That's where the rubber hits the road. That's where you move from just talking about something to really making services available in a very tangible way. And to people who are not in this room, to people who are not able to articulate the services that they need in the way that many people in this room can so well do. And then a related direction of that is the community-based infrastructure, with the objective being to have fully complete neighborhoods and outlying communities that meet people's everyday needs, day-to-day needs, and that are well connected. And 5 actions are called for here. The most important one is careful resident audits. That's reviews by residents of their neighborhoods to see what is needed, what's missing, what's gaps, and then add those in, not only in the city of Prince Rupert, but also in the First Nations neighborhoods and communities as well. And then really important to that, to pull it all together, is the new transportation plan for how you can most effectively move around in a modern way, moving to the active modes, moving to the more sustainable modes for the future. The vision closes off in terms of the substantive parts of it by looking at the all-important environment and wilderness setting of Prince Rupert. And the direction here is to preserve, steward, and enjoy the environment as a sustained, treasured, and unique natural wilderness. And this requires 5 actions, but the first set of those actions is really to avoid spoiling the environment in the first place by having an environment charter, so that putting aside the law, putting aside anything else, that we can all just agree on what is responsible as a community to do with regard to the environment, and also have sustainable urban development when it happens, and then to offer access to this wilderness in a sensitive and a planned way, with the First Nations taking a strong leadership role here, because this wilderness is what supports and sustains this First Nations communities, the Tsimshian culture, the Tsimshian people, in a way that is natural for them. So they, taking a leadership role, can assist us all to make sure that we do not despoil the environment over the long run. Ongoing advocacy is also included, as well as building a wilderness narrative, because this wilderness is increasingly unique in the world, and by telling that story to the world, you will draw more interest and more people who want to come and be a part of this great new developing community. And all of this then folds together by the last and most important direction, where the vision really addresses aspects of governance. How to bring people and energy and wealth and all the forces of the community together to bear to really transform this community through continuous and proactive public and private collaboration. This whole effort started by people who had not really been collaborating years and years ago, starting to collaborate. You saw that in all the sponsors. You see that in the diversity of the leadership in this room today. The 5 actions to take that forward and make that the way this community presents itself to the world and develops is a co-governance model of systematic and ongoing stimulus organized with new funding resources, clawing back some of those federal taxes that are now floating to some other part of the nation. The most vital of these actions is the foundation and formation of this Vision Stewardship Council, composed of representative leaders from all the important and interested parts of this community, from City Hall, from the First Nations, from the Port Authority, from the port companies, with a very strategic implementation program. And then related to this government body, it's essential to keep the public involved every step of the way. We had these incredible town meetings. That was the public. They were involved in these meetings. Well, they have to come together regularly, and they have to be the conscience to say, is this going right? Is this what we meant? Is this how it should happen? What are we missing as you go forward? And it will take all of the clout, all of the resources, all of the creative thinking, all of the collaboration, all of the mutual invention that you can put together as a community because you are a small community in order to really make the changes that will truly transform this community in the vision that you want to. This is the moment that either your community is going to change according to the vision of someone else, somewhere else in the world, or it's going to be shaped 100% by your intentions and by your vision. It's a pretty sweeping vision, and it will lead to pretty sweeping results if you have the steel and the staying power and the diplomacy to go with it and be with it year in and year out. There are some rich, rich potentialities. Now, fortunately, your city government has already been unusually proactive in taking some of the basic infrastructure problems which they were basically handed to as they took power and trying to deal with those, the water, the waste management, and that. But in addition to that, there are at least 10 other results that we identified that will be very different a decade from now. A revitalized core city, vibrant and complete places, choice neighborhoods, social and community infrastructure, protected and accessible hinterland, and a strong city brand. Now, this is an optimistic outcome. It's a statement of the best hopes. One wasn't right, you know, my dream is not going to be my worst hopes, it's going to be my best hopes. There will be problems, there will be challenges, there will be inequities, and those will remain. But things can change in a more organized way, in a more mutually supportive way, if you can bring an overall picture to it, as we've tried to do in this vision. So I've shown you a lot in the last few minutes. This vision is really jam-packed with ideas and schemes and concept plans and organizational moves and new ways of paying for things. It's unusual in that respect, its richness, and that's because that's what we found in those ideas as we worked with those people hour after hour after hour in the various meetings that we had. And the next step is to jump from concepts to active systematic change, and for that you will need that strategic program. Each element, each move has to be carefully evaluated. It has to be evaluated from the best detailed information and technical analysis. The engineering works have to be properly thought out. It can't just be randomly done. It has to have wider public involvement than we have. It has to involve many, many more people than we see in this room. It has to have the rigor of the official and legislative processes of the council, of the First Nations councils and others. It has to have the full and unfettered exercise of rights and powers that are out there of all the decision-making bodies. And as that happens, what it has to be in order to really bring out the most of the resources and potential is that it has to be done in a strong collaborative way. And each action that we've identified is only a direction. It will change, it will morph, it will become something else. It will become better and it will become more resilient as you go through those processes out of tonight. And that's okay, because that vivid dream is only that. It's a coherent dream, it's an aspirational dream, it's a collective dream, and once it's set in motion, we have seen in other places we've worked, the trajectory rarely changes. You got it right, but the details do change because you change, your community changes, the reality, the facts change over time, and you want to be on point with that. You want to be continually relevant to that changing nature of the community. So there it is, Your Worship and ladies and gentlemen. This is your vision for the future of Prince Rupert, for its transformation to achieve something very different in this community over the next decade as compared to what you faced over the last several decades. And as we hand this over to you, we said, let that process begin. Let it begin with joy. Let it begin with ideas. Let it begin with positive thinking. But let it begin. Let the game plan that we have given you, step by step, day by day, in the next decade, come to be the true Prince Rupert of the future. Thank you very much. We are so excited for you, Your Worship.
Okay. So, we are looking at nothing short of a full-scale mobilization of this community. To accomplish something of that magnitude is going to require all hands on deck. And we've been working really hard behind the scenes to really show this community how committed we are as a partnership to make this community go. There are a variety of plans in place to make this scale up. But tonight we wanted to be able to showcase to you some of those plans and show you that this is reality. Because we're all from Prince Rupert, and how many we all know the saying that it's "I'll believe it when I see it." Yeah, we're all laughing at that, aren't we? But look, tonight it's time to believe it. It's time to walk out of here tonight, updating our minds that this town is moving forward. It's time to change the narrative of the negative self-talk into a positive can-do attitude. It's time to really band together and make this happen, because we're going to make it happen. And tonight, you're going to see it starting. So first, we're going to start with some beginning steps, and I'd like to call the partners actually back to the stage if possible. So our first announcement this evening . The first announcement this evening is that we've hired some experts to help us put the Vision Stewardship Council together. So we're going to create a co-governing body that's going to oversee this process for the next 10 years. And that expert is going to help us with the governing, like terms of reference, how the funds are going to be established, all the working together elements, and that should be done for the early 2020s. So today we're showcasing our commitment as the founding partners, as well as we're going to be inviting the First Nations to be participating on this and other partners as well. And this will be the overarching governing body that will ensure we're keeping a pace and keeping on track to implement this variety of scale of implementation. As Larry outlined, the social elements, the environmental elements, the economic elements, there's so many things that have to happen, and it requires the entire community working together. And so this will be the overarching structure that will guide this process over the next 10 years. So that's our first announcement for you guys this evening. And the partners here, I would just want to thank them for their commitment to this community, because this is about all of us working together. And I just want to give these guys a round of applause for their commitment and leadership for this community. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Yeah. Next, starting in January, the partners are bringing in additional expertise to update the official community plan. So for a vision like this to really happen, it requires all the zoning to change, the bylaws to change, and that is a legal document that relates to the community charter, which regulates cities. And it also requires a ton of public engagement. So the message here tonight is that we're going to be starting that process early January, and that everybody in the community is going to have an opportunity to comment on the vision and participate in making it more real. So there will be a variety of workshops and public engagements for a variety of folks to come together. And during 2020, it's going to be a very active time to lay the foundations legally to make this reality. So that'll be the next thing that's going to happen in early January. And as I said, we have additional expertise coming on this and bringing in some high-level folks who really know how to take a plan like this and put it into action. Now, before I change the next slide, I'd like to call Sean Stevenson back to the stage from the Prince Rupert Port Authority to make another announcement.
Environmental sustainability is a core value of the Prince Rupert Port Authority. And, as we go through various port projects, whether by our proponents or by the Port Authority itself, we work diligently to both reduce or mitigate the impacts of port expansion. But there are times when expansion projects have an impact on the environment. And in that case, we're required to look at compensation and offsets and rehabilitating habitat elsewhere within the port and area to offset the impacts we have. And one such example is the Fairview Connector Road. That road will take all the trucks out of the downtown core. It'll move those trucks out, improving the safety of the community. It'll reduce the environmental impacts of the trucking activity, reduce our carbon footprint profoundly. But it does come with an impact in the marine environment. And working with DFO, we've identified the Seal Cove Slough as an appropriate offset or compensation project to rehabilitate that project to more than replace the environment that we're impacting through the construction of the connector road. But we've taken a unique approach with this one. So not only is it an offset or a compensation project to rehabilitate an area that has been negatively impacted through past industrial use, through replanting eelgrass and rehabilitation of the marine environment, we've worked closely with the City of Prince Rupert, on which this resides, their land, and we've leveraged this environmental mitigation to actually create a community asset. And through working with the City of Prince Rupert, we found a way to create even more recreational waterfront, if you will, and community space through the development of a lighted pathway around the slough, a pedestrian bridge, benches, tables, and so forth that provide a great endpoint or a starting point to the Rushbrook Trail that we celebrated the opening last year of. And I think this is a great example of taking the themes and spirit and concepts reflected in the 2030 community vision you've just seen and actually looking to activate it. And it's a great example of a project where we're working with the City of Prince Rupert and builds upon the projects that the Prince Rupert Port Authority has advanced over the last 20 years to expand waterfront access through Atland Terminal Development, Northland Terminal, the Atland Promenade, and the Rushbrook Trail. So we're very happy to be part of this and happy to work with the City of Prince Rupert on this exciting initiative.
And we're going to do a ceremonial signing of this agreement on the stage. And if Veronica, you're around. Okay, so new waterfront development. Round of applause. And later there'll be future phases to this, but we want to thank the Port Authority for their commitment to the community, to creating a new vibrant space in the community. And now next I'd like to call Harvey Russell from Lac Aux Lambs to the stage. So as you know, we have housing challenges and we have a variety of challenges in that nature. And I think I'll let Harvey speak to this next announcement.
Thank you, Mayor Bain. And we have some very exciting news to share in regards to housing. Lac Aux Lambs had entered an agreement with the province, and the province committed a whole lot of funding, and in partnership with BC Housing and the City of Prince Rupert, we have pretty much selected a site, and that'll be on 11th Avenue for a 60-unit subsidized housing for not only Lac Willam's bad members, but whoever will be able to fit the criteria to occupy affordable rental housing. So we've just got through finishing a 3-day session in the planning, and our architects will be drawing, coming up a 3D model, a lot of discussion, and once we have that ready, we'll make a presentation. And on behalf of the Mayor Reese, he sends his regrets. He is away in Vancouver for meetings. Otherwise, he'd be here, and several members of council. So definitely an exciting moment for Lac Willam's, and to do our part and resolve the housing issue here in Prince Rupert, as Prince Rupert is rapidly growing. So, 2030 vision, this is awesome. We're glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Let's give a round of applause for Lac Willam's. I hope you're starting to get a theme tonight that building a community takes multiple partners and takes everybody participating in many elements all at the same time. It's going to be a multi-pronged approach to this community, and we have more announcements to make. So next, I'd like to call Robert Long, our city manager, to the stage. Now, this next announcement has taken 25 years to happen, and I'm going to let Bob speak to it.
Good evening. Council appreciates this at least. So for many years, those that have been around for a long time will recognize that 3rd Avenue should have gone right through, and we at the city have been attempting to obtain this particular piece of property, which is called Lot 9, from CN for many years. And to CN's credit, I think they've finally seen the light that it would be appropriate to sell us this property, which they subsequently have, and we now own that very large piece of property that runs all along George Hills Way. So it allows us to do a number of things. One of them is to activate the new area of the community. What's it called again? Marina District. Yeah, I'm not up on the planning stuff. You don't get younger, you get older. So, that opens up, I think, a lot of opportunities. We've got, as you will know, we have the Cow Bay Bridge, which is a wooden trestle bridge, which is not going to last. Well, it's substantially past its best. And we will require to probably bypass that bridge at some point. So what we've got here is this large piece of property that we can now activate for a number of different uses, collaborate with the other property owners that are down there, and basically allow us to complete what was always part of our design for 3rd Avenue. So we thank CN for this. We've built a better relationship with CN over the last few years, and as a result of that, they were going to talk to us about some of the other properties. that we've coveted as a city and as a community for many years. And we hope that in the next while, as a result of this plan and with a result of the community support, that we will be able to convince CN to continue to work with us in terms of the property, which we could then have access for community use. So, thank you.
So this property incubates the Marina District, makes it a reality, and there's many ongoing discussions with the Pattison Group on the other side that are happening, and we hope to have some future information for you in the 2020. Now, before I go to the last announcement, there was another slide on here that I had to take out at the very last minute because the agreements didn't quite come in place for this evening, but I do want to mention that there are a few very big incubation projects that are underway for the downtown that unfortunately wasn't in the timing to be able to say to you tonight, but in early 2020, there's some very exciting downtown things that, and downtown has many, many components to it, but there's a variety of things happening already, and we can't share it tonight, but in early 2020, we hope to be able to give you that information tonight. So last but not least, I'd like to call our City Council to the stage, the Kitkatla City Council to the stage, or First Nations Council to the stage, as well as the Kitkatla Hereditary Chiefs to the stage, please. And maybe we'll have you stand on that side over there, just so we don't, or we can maybe break it up a little bit, because there's going to be a lot of us. So while everyone's making their way to the stage, reconciliation is a key component of this plan, working together with multiple partners to make something amazing happen here. This project we're about to talk about here today is, perhaps we could try to maybe keep the screen open a little bit because there'll be some graphics there, and we'll just pile on. And so this project's been a long time coming. It's been something we've been working towards, and through this partnership, we've been able to figure out a way to unlock the potential of this area. And I'm going to allow Chief Linda Innes to say a few words about this, but I'm going to wait for everyone to come on the stage for the dramatic purposes of being able to change the slide over. So tonight we're going to do, there's two things. One is what we're about to say here, and the other is that we've actually we've signed a new agreement with Kitkatla, a new relationship protocol, MOU, similar to what we did with Lac-Walams and Metlakatla earlier this year in August, to really solidify our common projects and what we want to work towards together, because this is all of our community, and it's something that we recognize as important. And we want to work more closely with Kitkatla. And in the new year, we're actually going to be, our councils are going to be going out to Lac-Walams, Metlakatla, and Kitkatla to do council-to-council meetings. And we're going to work together to work more closely together as a team through the Vision Stewardship Council to really enhance all of our horsepower to really push this project through. We're almost ready. Well, we're going to have to make some more room here, I guess. Yes, it's this big of a deal, I promise. We'll talk more about that in 2020. Okay, we ready? So, we're announcing a $30 million new waterfront down on the main waterfront. We're rebranding the waterfront as Rupert's Landing. We're relocating the airport ferry there, as well as Kitkatla's new ferry. We're going to be building a new marina down there, upgrading the CN building, and a variety of other great projects there. It's phase one of many phases to this project. I'm going to let Chief Linda Innes say a few words, and then we're going to have one of the hereditary chiefs say a few words. And I'm going to leave another slide up here, which is a bit of a sketch of what it would look like on the ground. So, Linda, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Welcome, Simgiget, Sigamana Ligiget, Governing Council, and community members attending this exciting event. As Chief Counselor of the Gitxaala Nation, I am honored that I can be here tonight to celebrate with you the launch of Redesign Rupert, including the signing of a memorandum of understanding between Gitxaala and the City of Prince Rupert for the redevelopment of Rupert's Landing. This memorandum of understanding between our communities represents a $30 million investment in the transportation and infrastructure for both our communities, and it is a confirmation of how our communities working can get together, can achieve great things. The Rupert's Landing project is a milestone achievement that will transform Prince Rupert's waterfront into a community space that supports retail, tourism, and transportation for Prince Rupert, Gitxaala, and all communities in the Northwest region. The agreement between Gitxaala Nation and the City of Prince Rupert does not happen overnight. It represents 2 years of hard work by Gitxaala and the City of Prince Rupert Governing Council, staff, and our Gitxaala hereditary chiefs that are here with us today. I would also like to acknowledge the leadership and support shown by Mayor Lee Bryan to getting this agreement completed. Finally, and perhaps the most importantly, I would like to confirm that this agreement lays the foundation for our communities to really work together in a meaningful way that can achieve greater success on future projects. I am excited for the future. I'm excited for what the future holds for our communities, and I look forward to working together with the City of Prince Rupert on Rupert's redesign and other projects. And I especially want to thank the negotiators, Robert Long and Mark Ignis, for all the work and time that they put in to making these, taking us to these agreements. And I especially want to thank our chiefs and matriarchs that are here that had a vision years and years ago for our nation, for Gitxaala Nation, because we have a long-standing presence within the city, and we have the same vision of addressing and supporting our members no matter where they live. So with that, I would like to introduce our hereditary chiefs that will be speaking. We will hear from our Chief Matthew Hill first, and then Elmer Moody. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Chanisum giget, sirmana, lika giget, kabawalks. Ik smachtu de euro de uitgegaan. Schohuis gegaan nog noostem de rakse uitgegaan. Zou zijt machskum. Er dem zij kokerodem. Het geld ze skuurde naar koren. Kan jeks, kan geskuur. Hij liet aan me, kijk je, zeepensk. Sim get hij liet aan me. Die niet in mijn accident komt. Nee, goed naar Rijpen, dat naar Koren. Dat lo am rodo, die wil die aanzicht. Dat hem niet moet passen. Go aan. En schoeien deuren dat ze morgen in die Prince Rupert, die Silmachskit. En home the Chief Counsel getreten. Die gaan in de council. Schaag hegelt. Heel ze tjibbet. En het niet om de boel de zijde achterste. Dat naar koren. Ze amt welsem en ze amt housem. De oorsen.
Sim geget, ligge geget, sigel manana. I have the honor to stand before you to speak on behalf of Genhatla and make remark in relation to what it is that we see that becomes the culmination of years and years of vision. As I watched the presentation and heard the words being expressed by the mayor, I recall a time about 12 years ago that our communities, Loch Colams, Medlacatla, Loch Clan, Port Ed, Prince Rupert, we all sat in a room meeting after meeting trying to identify commonalities. We tried to identify commonalities to ensure that what we saw was a region that was going to experience growth. What we wanted was to see a region prosper. There were at times some unfortunate situations where it began to become a situation where issues became strength of claim. And our processes became a little bit different. And we got lost in an argument that was never part of the vision. That was never part of the purpose as to why we got together. And as I watched the presentation, see the vision, see Genhatla's participation, not just in the waterfront, but many years ago, the purchase and co-purchase of the Chatham site building, in concert with the Museum of Northern BC, purchases of businesses, purchases of hotel, and our desire as well to address the homeless issue within Prince Rupert. We've always sought to be a part of the continuation of the ability of the region to prosper. And we've been fortunate over the last 12 years to have elected council guided by Sim Giget. And some of the words that Chief Matthews spoke to you today epitomize what it takes to get to the stage that we're at. He spoke of love. He spoke of respect that's required to do the work that needs to be done. And then when we have those as the symbolic effort to move forward together, we can do it together. We can see the region prosper. If the region prospers, we prosper. And we've had over the last number of years successive elective councils that continue to talk about the well-being. How do we define well-being for our community, for our people? And that's always been our focus. Part of that well-being includes the participation in projects such as you see here. It's not only a benefit to the region, but it is going to be a benefit to Genhatla as well. And I listened with great interest to the presentation that was put forward because I thought of our own culture. I thought of our own laws. When I talked about what happened about 12 years ago, community-to-community relationships, trying to find that commonality that we can all advocate for. The unfortunate reality is that time may not have been the time. It went to the wayside. But that process in identifying commonalities is what we would refer to as Sait Golam God, a people of one heart. What is the vision that we work towards? And ultimately, we all work towards a vision of a prosperous region. That was each and every one of our intent, was to see a prosperous region. Today, I'm very proud of the work that I see that's done by City Council, their partners, and the inclusion of Ganhatla, Lachkolams, Metlakatla, because what we now see and what I did here today is one of the things that makes me most proud to be able to hear. The words, a call to action. Each one of us can sit around the table and talk about what it is that we want and what it is that we expect. But at the end of the day, nothing's going to happen if we don't take up the cause to initiate an action. In our culture, our language, it's called Bachlansk. Seit Gulam God is a philosophy, it's a visioning. Bachlansk is an action in unison to accomplish something. And I'm very proud to be able to stand here and speak on behalf of Ganhatla and acknowledge that each and every one of us are honored to be able to stand here and participate with Prince Rupert, as well as the neighboring communities, to ensure that what it is that we expected and what it is that we hope to see, that we are a continued part of it and we gladly participate. And for that, we thank you for the honor to participate.
I hope you're getting the sense that something special is happening here, that we're doing something new and unique. Thank you for your words. And now Chief Linda Indus and I will do the 2 agreement signing. And before we do, I just also want to acknowledge our City Council, who met with the Kitkala Council 2 weeks ago, and it's been a lot of back and forth getting this prepared for today, and I just want to acknowledge them as well for all their hard work. coming to kick down here in the new year. We're gonna come visit you guys.
Merry Christmas.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And we'll make it one.
So as everyone shuffles out of here, Larry and his team will be available in the lobby to take questions. We're going to have a variety of new information in 2020. There's going to be a big public engagement process at a larger scale than we're most likely used to for 2020. I want you to walk out of those doors today and update your belief system about Prince Rupert. This is a time of unity. This is a time of us coming together, full scale, mobilizing this community to make a vision like this happen. Today is just the beginning of something much larger, and I hope that these actions today spark your motivation to want to be involved, and there's going to be a ton of ways for everyone to interact, and we're looking forward to sharing more information. But thank you for attending tonight, and Merry Christmas to everyone.